Back in the studio with the two impressive lads from Double Yolk, Henry and Jack, who are going to take us through 10 ideas that we can all be thinking about when it comes to starting a business. So, boys, some great feedback from episode 1, as we knew that there would be. And now it's time to rip through some of these ideas and see what you've got for the people out there listening to Keep the Change. They better be good.
Yeah.
No pressure.
You go first. So, and I suppose to caveat for those who haven't listened to the first episode, but it's the kind of the idea we're talking about was that often it's people get stuck on the idea, and so the point that we're discussing was that the idea is somewhat not irrelevant, but it's only a very small part. It's 1% of it's all really about execution. So with that in mind, we want to put our money where our mouth is and share some ideas that people can use to get underway if they're useful, but they might not be.
Before we do, for those who didn't listen to the first episode, go back and check out the success the boys have had with starting a business, scaling it, and then selling it. But if you don't go back and listen to this and you to that podcast and you carry on with this one, very, very quickly in a minute, Double Yolk and the success you've recently had. Do you want to just take us back through that so that people get a feel for it if they don't listen to the first one?
Yeah, so as 1,000 footers, we've had a really exciting journey, but over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, we've scaled a business that provides offshore resourcing to local companies. We've managed to grow it to sort of over 100 staff and 5 million ARR. And recently, about a month back, we got acquired by a business called Outsourced and a CEO called Mike Larcher, a Sydney-based company. We're pretty fizzed up and excited for the next 6 months.
Well, what comes next?
What did he miss, Henry? Anything?
No, that was pretty good actually. I guess the only other thing I would say is we're pretty excited to work alongside some Kiwis and give some ideas around businesses and what potential execution can come out of these. But who knows? But it'd be interesting.
Well, let's give them some ideas, and in 2 years' time, they'll come back and let us know.
And one last point as well on the previous one is that we did discuss that ideas on a surface level all sound crap. So I'm sure that'd be no different for these. But look, the first and they're all relatively simple, but they're ideas that realistically shouldn't take a lot of funding or investment that you might better go
easy on ramp ideas.
Get underway with. But the first one that I had that I scribbled down was a historic prints website. So we've gone into an apartment recently. What I couldn't see, and again, we talked about in the first episode, a lot of these probably already exist. Okay, so but in our view, it doesn't matter. If you haven't heard about it 3 times in the last month, it's as good whether it exists or not is completely irrelevant. If you haven't been heavily targeted. But the first one was historic prints. So the ability to go on and rather than just getting a naff piece of art, but be able to actually go on and go, well, I'm into baseball, so I want to get a picture of Babe Ruth in 1932 hitting his last home run at New York Yankee Stadium, and be able to just click it, have it delivered. And I think the reason that those types of businesses I really like is because you can 3PL it all logistics. You just got to have a front, and you can get someone else to do the prints and send it out. So small little idea, but something that people might better nibble on.
So 3PL was basically the prints someone would do it for you and ship it to them. So you, like you say, you are the shop front, you're taking the order and then giving it off to the 3PL. And then they're sending it direct to the customer, and you're collecting the
They're doing everything.
Which I think a lot of people would have learned about on TikTok and social media as drop shipping and thought it's a whole new thing, but realistically it's just a form of e-commerce, and it's been happening for a long time.
Spot 100%. On.
Yeah.
And if a lot of people with these types of models of, people that are doing, photos, drawings of people's animals or wedding photos, a lot of that is they are just a storefront, a fascia, and all the work's just been done by another company.
Yeah. The technology's getting pretty good these days as well. You can plug and stitch a lot of like third-party logistics, order forwarding, all that sort of thing. So it becomes operationally pretty easy to and then it's really just about marketing and the kind of the front end.
I think with these ideas, what people need to understand as well is, because they're going to sit there and go, I've never heard of 3PL, what's order forwarding, all these things. You're still going to spend some time. Like, no one's going to come and do it for you. So like one of the ideas, go and Google it and research it, ChatGPT, YouTube it, and go and study how someone's done it. Because, you can't just like click your fingers and start a business. Well, you kind of can these days, but you're still going to have to go and find the demand and the customer, but you're going to have to learn about it. And the more you learn about it, the more you're going to have a chance of succeeding with it.
Yeah, and the good thing is as well, sorry, Henry, but I think the good thing as well is like to get the information now. You mentioned ChatGPT, but Udemy, those sort of things, we've used them as well. They're phenomenal. So for $12, you can get someone to give you a full SEO course.
Yeah, the good thing too with people who have already done things, especially if they're not in New Zealand, find their website, get their
spot
contact
on.
details, reach out to them and
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Any tips for me?
Yeah,
Can I jump
that's
on a
a really good
Zoom call
point.
with you?
Yeah.
You can access them.
Yeah,
They
often-
might
Yeah, pay
say
them
piss off.
$100 for
Yeah.
half an hour of the time, you know?
And
or-
often someone doing it, a lot of people will stop at the point they'll go, oh, I get this idea, I think of this great idea overnight and write it down in the morning. Hey, chuck it in Google. Oh, bugger, someone's doing
Yeah.
it. But actually, don't stop there because someone doing it's actually. If no one was doing it, I'd be more worried about that idea.
Yes.
It means
Yeah.
okay, shit, you might be on something pretty wild here. But someone doing it is a really good sign. It shows okay, well, there's obviously an established market for it. All you got to do is do it slightly differently.
Yeah. And I think also being first to market has its own challenges. Yes, you don't have a competitor in the space. If you do have a completely new, different idea that no one else has thought of, that's like super brilliant. But also, by being first to market, there's no category for it. So it's up to you to position, create that value, which is actually like a pretty high mountain to climb, whereas like,
Pretty cool.
if you if it's a category that's already pretty widely available and you're just making your unique spin on it, like at least people can comprehend the understanding of the value of the product, so it's a little bit easier. Yeah.
And I think
There's
you
trade-offs either way.
You can create demand in this day and
Spot
age as
on.
well. The more attention
course.
you drive, I think a good example is shout out to Deanna from Moustache, the cookies. Have you
We have. Yeah.
You think, well, who can't do home baking? I mean, I can't, but
I can't,
okay, well, here we go. But people
Henry
would go,
can.
I probably can, however.
everybody would probably think, well, I could bake cookies. And it's like, yeah, but you're not. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's
and you're
right.
not building all the attention, and you're not innovating, and you're not making it a community, and you're not doing all the stuff that she's
Yeah,
done.
it looks easy from the outside.
Yeah.
Well, I heard a staggering statistic. I think it was actually, again, Alex Hormozy, but he did say, like, and I don't know how true this is, so you might want to verify the numbers, but it's something like 20 hours deep focus on building a new skill puts you within the top 10% of people on the planet that know about that skill.
Holy. Do
Do you know what I mean? Like, the playing field is so low. Like,
you boys would have grown up with the 1,000 hours or the 10,000 hours.
Yeah, it's
did
come
you?
down.
Yeah,
it's
it's
easier now.
nuts.
well, the idea is like obviously to become a subject matter expert, that 10,000 hours probably
Yeah.
is
You
like
wanna be a
that's
heart
that's a 0.1%.
Yeah.
But for like, whether it's like spinning up an e-commerce website, but a web development courses or a baking course, something like that, 20 hours will get you half a working week will get you there.
Good call.
Yeah.
Problem is people will spend 20 hours deep in an algorithm learning about CBDCs or something that they actually have no control over. Well, they might have some control over that, voting against it, for instance, instead of like, I could have used it to learn and educate myself and then go and take some execution and action. I interviewed a young fella, I don't know if you listened to that one, where he's 15, and that's what these young guys have done, is basically what product could him and his mates work on
Cool.
and then go and sell, and a lot of it was drop shipping or even sneaker flipping and stuff like that. But the education was coming from social media and people doing it on there, but they were using social media for good purposes and to learn, and then go and make their own content and make it look like other people's that were getting engagement. So they've seen someone else's recipe and go, well, we just need to do it our way. And making he'd done 50 grand worth of sales by the age of 15 across various things.
That's right. Yeah, it
That's
doesn't have to be unique. Doesn't have to be a novel idea.
Speaking of those prints, actually last night my partner was showing me a print site where we could order a print of Omaha, which is special to us because we go there, etc.
Gotcha.
And so we're picking, and it's a fucking $1,000, man.
Yeah,
I'm
of
like,
course.
it's pretty expensive.
There's plenty of gross margin in there.
She's like, we've got a voucher though. I'm like, great. How much the voucher? Oh, 200. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's a
okay.
stitch up.
But then it's like, then it's the upsell to the framing and
of course.
stuff. But people literally, they're doing this stuff. And if you can get enough attention, like they've got enough attention to then sell a gift voucher for that to be a present for us to then pay the other 80%. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Good call.
Idea number 2, what do we got?
Pottery play packages.
Okay.
Yep. So this one I believe is kind of like, you can sort of think about it however you like, but potentially like a little kit set, buy off the shelf that you can take home. And it's like basically a non-Netflix activity to do with like a couple or like, a group of friends. Is like, a build your own kind of pottery set that just, sits on the front of the table.
Yeah.
You could either do it with a few beers or, do it over a picnic.
I actually quite like this one because I think that people are going to get more and more, we've had Netflix for a few years now. You've kind of watched every series. I think people are starting to yearn a little bit more for non-technical interaction.
And a bit more tactile things.
Yeah, a bit more tactile. So, and that mindfulness, like, there's quite good evidence that doing things with your hands, things like pottery. So I think, again, to your point before, Luke, it's all going to be advertising. But if you can sell the idea that, hey, make a little date night with your wife and, order some pottery or get delivered, add some water and have some fun, play together, see what you can make, see where it leads.
Yeah, do it.
My
with your
partner
kids.
and one of their really good friends had to wait 6 weeks on a wait list for an evening pottery course.
Wow.
So it's a really big thing,
So
like
you
you
do
know,
it,
and they were like, you
We
know,
didn't know that
she
when we
was
put
like,
this down.
yeah. But she was like, she ended up going the second week in a row because you know, first week you make it, then the second week you go back after it's all been in the kiln and glazed. But
And it's mud, isn't it? It can't be expensive.
it can't be that expensive. Maybe the turning wheels. I think the turning wheels are a little bit expensive. You just make them cheap.
But that's an upsell. That's like
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. The old pottery play packages. You boys will be interested in this. Doing a podcast next week with a lady called Ellie, and she's building a board game called Shenanigans to help people learn about investing.
Yep. Great.
And
Awesome.
I asked her about it, and one of the first things she said is, I was going to make it an app, but after talking to parents, they were like, I don't want my kids to be downloading another app.
no.
App fatigue. It's a real thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she's like, oh, maybe I should make it a board game. So she's seeking funding to get
Good
to
call.
the point where she can. So it's basically pre-sales to then know that there's enough demand there. So yeah, finding out a bit more about that to help her get to that goal of what she needs to then move on with it. But
Spot on.
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
then since talking to her yesterday, then I was listening to a guy talk about teaching his parents, and he was talking about the board games that he used to play with his kids so that they learnt more about money. And most people would think of Monopoly, right? But I think Monopoly will get a bad rep eventually. It's like, oh, you're trying to buy up all the property or whatever.
Yeah.
And so actually just learning some of the terminology. So she could really be onto something there.
She's
And
onto something.
yeah, 10 or 20 years later could look back and that could be a household game.
Yeah.
But you would think, oh, I need to have an app. But it's almost like the reverse. Like, no, I want a board game,
Keep it
not
simple.
an app.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
we'll
Good call.
stay tuned for that one.
Yeah.
There's one that people can do. Yep.
Getting in the KiwiSaver fund that suits you and your situation is key to making sure you're maximizing your investment. Generate are an award-winning KiwiSaver provider with a track record of long-term performance, and they can help you do exactly this. Their advisors can meet with you to talk about all your options when it comes to KiwiSaver to help you decide what's best for you. Too many people never get KiwiSaver advice, but not you. Go to generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change to book a no obligation chat with a Generate advisor. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns. Number 3.
Cool. So what have we got here? This is a slightly more seasonal idea, but another easy one is Christmas wrapping paper that's organic that has seeds in the paper. So, so the thinking here is that there's people are getting more and more environmentally conscious and savvy. And when you give gifts at Christmas, there's quite a lot of waste. People are quite aware of that, and so it'd be quite nice, especially for corporate gifts and stuff, to be able to give someone a present, but tell them, hey, by the way, the paper that it's wrapped in, and it can be have a really cool design, but it can even come with a little tag that tells the person that, hey, the paper is not only fully organic and recyclable, but you can actually go throw it in the garden. It's got seeds in it, and see if you can grow X or Y. And again, I don't think it would be too hard to do.
Yeah. Wow. Gee, my marketing brain kicks in. I'm an accountant, but I've got a little bit of creativity. I get we could call it Seedy Santa.
There you go.
Seedy Santa.
There you go.
That's the name right there.
And even if we can't get the seeds into it, you could just have it attached to it and say, look, okay, when you throw this out, you need to go and plant these
your
seeds.
Yeah, exactly.
Because someone's going to go, well, how are you going to put seeds into paper? But
two-ply.
Yeah, imagine if you could flush them down the toilet perhaps as well. And then it ends up and grown in the landfill or something.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I like that one.
There's a nice easy one.
Yeah.
Uh,
But also, I think that just highlights as well, like your brain will tell you why you can't do these things, and business is about acknowledging that and going, okay, like I get you, brain, that makes sense. How would you put seeds in there? But we're not giving up yet.
Spot on. And even if you think back to the pottery one, like I haven't gone googling it, and that's because we just don't care. I don't care if someone's doing it.
It's not your thing.
But someone that does care or that is used to that path will go, hey, actually that pottery thing's kind of a cool idea. I'll go whack it in Google. Oh bugger, there's a company in Hamilton already doing it. And then stop. And I think it's so important, for those sorts of things, is don't let your brain do that trick on you.
Yeah.
Don't let you, because if you think back over the last 5 years, there are probably 20 or 30 times you've done that. Any of those 20 or 30 could have worked.
Yes.
If you're having to Google it, then you're not aware of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. Yeah.
And acknowledging that, going back to the first episode, part of why your brain will be saying that can't work won't be data. Yeah. And it'll also be, Uncle Paul or Paul's uncle, whoever it was, reminding you before you start, like, don't be a failure. because
That's
you're triggered by
right.
that. So if we've already spent the 350 with the counsellor, we've unpacked that and we know like, that's what my brain's doing. It's trying to protect me from him.
Yeah. It becomes a relief. Oh, someone's doing it. Lucky I don't have to. I can park that one.
Yeah,
I think as well that it's kind of, it's almost like it's a sort of self-confirmation bias, like in your sense, somebody else is doing it. Oh, sweet. Like, I can almost like, I wanted to start a business, but actually maybe secretly you're kind of stoked that you don't have to go through the pain of, trying to start a business and run the risk of things. I think again, comes back down to mindset, but even like starting small, just being like, if I were to create like a pottery kit by hand and to see if I can give it to my mum for Christmas, or like my dad or like my parents or like my friends, make 3, and then ask them would they pay for it, think about ways you can kind of tactically start small, start very, very tiny and kind of build on it from there rather than trying to overcomplicate the starting.
End up with a container load of the stuff that you've.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, and that's the nerves, right? You end up kind of going,
I think the beauty these days, as you boys touched on in episode 1, Facebook groups. You can find a Facebook group for anything. So you might be able to go into the New Zealand Eco-Friendly Society. There's 60,000 people in there, let's say, and you say, "Hi guys, I'm pretty close to designing what I believe is New Zealand's first CD Santa wrapping paper. Here's what it does," and basically, the market's going to validate for you. Firstly, you'll get someone like, that already exists.
Oh, that already exists.
You're talking about this. And you'll go like, okay. And then you'll realize.
Is it called CD Santa? I don't think so.
Their marketing sucks. Mine doesn't. But you might find that you get all these people going like, oh my God, that's amazing. Let us know when it's ready. Yep. And you're basically getting pre-orders or pre-demand signals from the market before actually going and placing that first big order yourself.
You could always do like a little GoFundMe if capital was a bit shy and stuff like that, So
and there's kind of like a really good rule that we've seen applied really well for a lot of the businesses we have worked with, and some of them have gone on to be tremendously successful, which we're really proud of being able to work with those local companies. But a lot of the ones that have done really well had a buyer before they started, and that's where they've gone, okay, well I'm going to sell this to universities for argument's sake. Well, hey, rather than building it and spending 50 grand then trying to sell it onto Auckland Uni, why don't you go find your closest uni and co-build it with them? Say, hey, we're going to do this. Are you interested? Yeah, we're interested. Look, I'll tell you what. Well, we're not going to charge you. You're going to be our first user. We're going to charge you. And if you like it after 24 months, then, hey, we can look at a subscription. But for now, we just want to build it with you. Know that you've got that customer locked in because they'll help you build it. They'll tell you what they actually need, and then you're co-building it with them with their needs in mind. So we've seen that applied a lot of times, and it's a powerful option, and just gives you a bit of certainty as well.
It's a really good leading indicator, I think, of especially now, like once you kind of interface with a few people that, trying to start businesses, want to create mobile apps, you ascertain their requirements and things like that. A friend of mine based over in Brisbane is an SQL engineer, so he's kind of database engineer guy, and he works with his company to basically help prep data structures for AI, because it's otherwise like the algorithm of AI is kind of junk in, junk out kind of thing. And he doesn't have a website, but for like the last year and a half, like he doesn't have a website, doesn't have a logo, doesn't even have a name. It's just his Gmail. But basically he's got like 40 clients where he's just through word of mouth, because they're all like, oh, we want to leverage AI in our business. And he's like, cool, your data's not, you need to do this, this, and this, and this. And they're like, okay, cool, how much do we pay you? And he's like, oh, fine, like, I guess I'll just do it, and he's got no interest in the website, the branding, the logo, or the mobile app or anything. Like, he's just like,
it's getting it done.
It's just something that's getting done. He's like, eventually, like, it'll turn into something, but it's like just amazing, like, that he's just focused on the value first, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it shows it can be done. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
All right, idea 4. What do we got, boys?
Cool. And there might be some version control hands. I don't know. So we'll
go off that one then.
So I think we're up to that one there. If you want to. The Traveller.
Oh, the Traveller Connection website. Yeah, so helping...
Just actually, the Traveller Connection website.
Traveller Connection website. Helping other people, find buddies when overseas. So whether you're travelling solo for work or, for as a couple, kind of overseas for holiday, for pleasure, you can sign up to the application, as your profile, and basically meet other people in your area a little bit, kind of like, Tinder, but a bit more platonic.
Yeah, and I think specifically for something like that, where the niche is being clear that it's not a Tinder, you're not looking for romance or intercourse. You actually, I think there's a big demand for people that just want to
just hang out with other people.
You're in a new city. We're often traveling for work and stuff. And sometimes you go, well, I've got a spare Saturday. I wouldn't mind seeing if there's someone that I could have a game of tennis with rather than going to the wall and hitting against myself.
Yeah.
So something like that, and those sorts of, again, to your point, doesn't need to be a website.
Yeah.
It could be a Facebook group.
It could just be a group of So those ones are pretty light, but nice, easy, chewable one.
I mean, you know that can work because you often see on LinkedIn that corporates will post saying, hey, I'm going to be in London, I'm going to be in Nelson, wherever. And people are like,
anyone want to go fly fishing?
I'll catch up with you. And this is just making it more activity based. And I wonder, we'd have to do some work on how to monetize that one.
That's exactly right. Yeah, maybe it's one of those ones that goes in the bucket that you don't, and
someone else might go like, I know how I can monetize it.
Spot on.
Yeah, you might. I mean, I think people are craving connection as well, and you might find there's actually government funding for something like that in the future as well, as we learn more about why we need to bring people back to community causes.
I think people are longing for it. Like, people are. I think the communities are getting. As a community, it is getting more and more isolated. I think things like churches that used to kind of play that role are somewhat gone. Rugby clubs are dwindling. So I think there's a big niche, and it doesn't need to be that specific idea. But that what we talked about a lot on the previous episode was the idea that sometimes just starting on something is your ticket to the park, and then you can go from there. So just starting on here, you might start with a website that connects people when they're traveling, but you might find, well, actually there's a stronger need. It's similar, but actually there's a strong need to connect people within the same town that like similar interests or whatever it is. So just getting started sometimes can be enough to get you on the slide.
Do you lads remember, this is going back a while, I can't remember what it was called, but I remember being teenage years, and you could get these little plastic devices, and they would ping out some sort of reception, and it might have only gone like
I think it was, 40
and
there'd be someone on the bus, someone else on the bus had it.
Or you could kind of go to the mall.
Yeah, I've heard of these.
Yeah, you could go to the mall, and you might be
might have been like
Pokemons
or something. I can't remember exactly what they were connected to. But
I don't think they'll be Pokemons.
No, but I think it was some kind of broader reason you had it, but it definitely pinged people within like a near frequency.
It wasn't like a Tamagotchi or something, was it?
Nah, but it was like around that era. But you would sort of, it was almost, I think it was pre-cell phones, but you would then know someone's in the mall that's got one as well. Like we could meet up, and you could message them, and then you might meet up with this person. It's just almost like a pager.
Yeah.
But kind of this combined with that, and you would buy this device, but the reach on it was so few or not very fast. It was sort of, wasn't. But I remember coming to the big city. I was like, right, I'm going to take it to the mall. And like, is anyone here with one?
I guess you can kind of bond over the fact that you both have these devices in your pockets for some reason.
The only two people in the whole
that's a nice plastic block.
What do we do now?
I can't for the life of me remember what they were called, but someone listening will.
Someone will write in.
But I think what it shows is that sometimes these ideas, they've existed before in different waves and different forms as well.
Spot on. They don't have to be new.
No. It might just be a new way to do it.
Yeah, totally. I think anything that fosters that connection, though, like human to humans, pretty important these days because there's so many things blocking us from that human to human connection. So many distractions.
Yeah,
it's been nice to bring back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, number 5.
Cool. So this one was kind of like a packaging sort of GPS chips idea. So the thing that, I don't know, if you order a pair of shoes that come from the States or something at the moment, you have to rely on, or they might be coming from China, and you're looking at kind of their local post, and then it gets transferred over to Australian customs, and you kind of, it seems wild that at this day and age we can't just have a cheap, and yes, there's, there are those people listening saying, but there are those Apple tags and stuff, but they're expensive, and what there isn't yet is the ability just to throw a $1 chip in it. Maybe you can even pay. You can charge the user. Hey, do you want this? Do you want this? And you'll better think of your marketing, but whatever you want to call it, target chipped or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yep, I do. Chuck it in, and then you can track that down to the square foot the entire way till it gets dropped off, and then it dies. It'd have to have a shelf life because obviously it wouldn't be charged. But even if it lasted a week or something, I think something like that would be great for logistics, even for businesses. Hey, hey mate, I'm sending the freight just so you can watch it. I've thrown in a chip. And then you give them as the chip number, and they can track it down to the house.
I love this one. Yeah. Chip tracking. Because I guess if you think about it, like I went and posted something, and the old NZ Post, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to pay for tracking?"
Yeah.
You kind of think, mate, why the fuck do I need to pay for tracking when I'm paying you to deliver it to the address, and that's what your service is?
You're scanning it anyway at each point.
And they're like, but it's just clearly
they must be
an
making
upsell.
Absolute mint from that one. Yeah.
The consumer's already saying like, yes, I'll pay for that. But then if you knew, okay, you can have 24/7 chip tracking.
Yeah, and the tracking sucks. We'll say like, it's in customs or it's somewhere between Australia and New Zealand. It's like great. Well, like, is it
where?
Yeah,
100%.
Why hasn't it been scanned in 4 days?
I think I've got the name Chip Packet, but it's PACKIT.
Oh, nice. Good.
Not bad.
Because as well, you think about it, this will decrease insurance claims and things like that. Because if you're sending something that's really valuable, instead of the tracking of like, okay, it's in this airport or whatever, you can physically see it. Imagine watching it fly over an ocean.
Oh, it'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
So it can't be far away. You'd think
Can't be far away.
Well,
And
the
again,
technology is so like it's arbitraging pretty quite a lot. It's pretty commodified now.
We're all being tracked in some way, shape, or form, right?
tracked.
Whether it's our data or our devices and stuff, knowing where we are. My Tesla has sometimes my partner will come down to move her car when I'm getting there, and I'm like, I used to think like, how does she know? I'm like, well, she can watch me where I am in my
there's
Tesla.
no hiding.
She knows you're at McDonald's getting a McFlurry.
I'm just going to go to KFC on the way home too. No, I like that one. Okay, number 6.
The Raffle Anything website. So basically a little bit like Trade Me, but the idea is that anything's up for grabs and you can basically list it, raffle it.
Yep. Set your I suppose you'd set your kind of benchmark. What's help me with the word here? Your kind of your sell points. You go, well, this is 100. Tickets might be $1.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, this is my bike, so it's 100 raffles. As soon as it gets to $100, as long as it gets to $100, it's kind of the reserve. Then boom, someone wins it. And I guess
you put a chip,
I guess it would have a bit of fun because you could list your you could list your Tesla. You know, 50,000 raffle tickets, but it means that people don't have to $50,000 if there's there's obviously some gambling laws to look into here, but
it's hard to say. So you have to be the killjoy, okay? So you have to be careful with ones like this because we do have laws in New Zealand around running online raffles. So it's actually been illegal to sell a raffle ticket online, but they changed the rules because of COVID. But I think they're changing back on 31 October. And you were going to ask, well, how do I know so much about this? Because I've kind of been down this path before, and this stuff fascinates me. And I think it could be so much fun. And I've been in trouble with the Department of Internal Affairs myself before as well. So then you have to start reading up the Gambling Act. You have to start talking to lawyers who deal with this stuff, and then I'm like, well, how do Countdown get? I shouldn't use names out. How do how do they do their ones and stuff? And so then you start, and they're like, well, they use this wording, and then there's case law, and you learn about this.
You're
whole
learning
area.
so much, and again, even if you do come to a brick wall on that one or a dead end, you're going to learn so much. Just by going through that process.
The journey in and of itself is kind of its own reward.
And if you end up having to set up the company in the British Virgin Islands, then so be it.
Yeah, you do have to be. There's a cool Australian-based business, I think, called Gala Bid. So Gala Bid have built this where you could, what their idea was is that you could go on there and you could launch your own raffle and do this, and they provide the function and the formality and basically the infrastructure. And so then you just send the traffic to it and say, like, Luke's Tesla is for, and so they designed it. And it's actually, I'm pretty sure it's used quite widely in Australia.
They're a little bit more relaxed on those kind of online gambling laws.
They love gambling over there.
It's bookies, isn't it? I love that you've done. And that's I think is a really good highlight of the difference between with a great skill that people like you have, Luke, is that you don't just think of the idea, but you actually give it a crack, and you've probably learned a whole bunch in there that there's no way you would have worked out without doing it.
Well, so for what happened for us is that we tried to build you put in $100, everybody puts in $100 if you want to, and then we pull the kitty. And then you pick a horse to win a race, and we have 10 races. And if they win, then you get 3 points, 2 for second, 1 for third. And then all we did is basically fill out a Google form, transfer your money. Great, they've all paid. Ended up with I think $30,000 to $50,000 in a pot. And then it was like, right, someone's going to win 70%, someone's going to win 20%, someone's going to get 10%. So it didn't even clip the ticket, like nothing. You could donate and if you wanted to, but otherwise the 100% of the pool was going back. And so then we just built a Google sheet, which then people could come to live and see, okay, who's leading.
Such a good MVP.
People loved it. And I was like, wow, we could scale the shit out of this. And then next thing, our Facebook group was gone and we were doing this, and I'm like, whoa, that doesn't feel right. Someone who didn't know the rules was like, they shouldn't be doing that. So then, I'm then having to talk to the DIA. But the DIA basically have a rule where it is education first rather than, so they will say like, hey, you can't do that and here's why. And then you'll actually say to them like, is there any way I can sort of like, how can I work around this? And they're probably not going to say like, oh, go and do this. But
Yeah.
you can get lawyers who do know that stuff. But quite funny,
Spot on.
I then rung this lawyer who I know operates in this space, and he answered the phone. He was like, "Hi, Luke, you on the front of the Herald this week?"
Yeah, he didn't take
They're so in tune with what's happening in that
so
space
cool.
because it's so like niche. There's not many
gotcha.
gambling lawyers, but
Yeah, cool.
we ended
Love
up. You talk with the DIA and basically like, well, hey, we didn't even know. We're not trying
Wasn't
to harm
malicious or
anyone.
anything like that.
And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
all the money's been,
Distributed,
yeah.
yeah.
So, but that was for us. I'm like, oh, this is so doable. But an idea where I was just trying to bring people together.
Yeah.
Spot on.
And then they can log into a Google, link and see it all. But no, we didn't build any app or anything.
Yeah.
It was basically just like, here's the instructions if you want to be a part of it. But interestingly, as part of that, is that I thought that the way we could get around it was that you can run those things if they're free. Now, please, anyone listening, do not take this as legal advice because I still was then told, no, you're not right.
Yeah.
So basically, you can enter for free. And then you could donate to the prize pool. Of
course.
So I said, we're going to do it again, but you can donate. But if you so if you donate, you can donate electronically. That'll get you straight into the draw, and that'll get you straight in. And we'll send you the instructions of how to play come Saturday.
Right.
Otherwise, you need to write to us to this address, and we need to have your entry by like such and such
cut-off
time.
date, yeah.
And literally, like most people were like, "Oh, okay, sweet, I'll donate to play." And like 2 people, sent a physical entry going like, "Did you get my?" And I'm like, "No, you missed the cutoff. Sorry."
You must have got stuck in the mail. Did you send a chip?
So I thought that we had a way around it, but basically, no.
That was still not really. Oh,
So, but anyway,
Get on if you're trying to go around the B route though, and obviously the C route.
that's the entrepreneurial mindset, right? Of like, okay, you're telling me no, but what if I do it like this? And sometimes you do just have to go, okay, that is what it is. We can't do that.
Yeah, try something different.
Yeah, but also I then took that idea to the legislators and said, there's massive demand here. People want to do this. If we can't do it, you guys do it. You've got the license to do it.
Call.
The market tells us that the demand is there. They want it. Build it.
Yeah, good call.
Well, there is a classic story of like, you go down, you learn a bunch of stuff, you try a little bit of a pivot, you still get blocked there. Third one, can potentially work in and make it happen.
And I mean, like, I learned a lot through it as well. And I remember being on a flight and I'm reading the Gambling Act. I'm like, having to read it on it. I think people are like, what the hell is this guy? And then you're reading the case, and like, oh man, this doesn't make any sense.
And I think as well, a lot of people would it'd be easy to make the mistake to think that a lot of that was wasted. But actually, when you go to another idea, there's going to be adjacencies. Out of the 100 hours you spent on that, 50 of those hours are going to be repurposed to the next thing.
Yeah.
So then you're not starting at square one. So your next idea becomes easier. Eventually, you do enough, it's going to work.
Yeah.
100%. Beat the power game with PowerShop. If you want to get ahead with your money, you need to get ahead with your bills. Back in the day, I used to get a little thrill when a power bill would arrive in the mail and show that I was in credit. The thrill of being ahead of your bills is a feeling money can't buy. PowerShop is in the business of delivering that feeling. They do things differently, giving you the insight and control over your bill to stay ahead. With PowerShop, you can see what you're using and purchase power packs, which are discounted packs of power, ahead of time. This enables you to plan ahead and pay for power when it suits you. All in all, being with PowerShop means you're informed and empowered to take control of your power bill. So, what are you waiting for? Take charge of your dollars, kilowatts, and cents by switching to PowerShop. As a bonus, you can choose between a $150 credit or free weekends when you sign up. To see how much you could save, visit powershop.co.nz and get a savings estimate simply by uploading a recent electricity bill.
Yeah,
right. I've tangent.
That was good. That was exciting. Yeah.
Number 7.
So this one I've got was is another again easy I think to execute, but a kid's books that work like escape rooms. So I've got a young boy, Ollie's 18 months or so old, but I was thinking that there's it's great as a parent to see your kid solving and learning. Obviously, he'd be a little bit young for this particularly, but I know that those escape rooms are really cool where you solve a code and that allows you to get to the next part of the escape room, and then you solve a code, then you go. And I was thinking, as a trimmed down format of that, it would be really easy for someone to create a book that worked that way, where it had locked pages or some kind of mechanic where you had to solve a code on the first page to then unlock, and you target it. There might be one for 3-year-olds, one for 5-year-olds, one for 8-year-olds, progressively harder with themes. One might be pyramids, and another might be ancient Europe, whatever it is. But this idea that there's an interactive learning experience that's again tactile that the kids can work through and get that sense of achievement. And again, to your point earlier, like getting away from the iPads.
Yeah, nice.
Getting away from the screens and actually solving something. So, little idea.
That's good.
My favourite Goosebumps books. Remember those?
Yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah.
ones
That was
where,
so
like,
You
good.
can choose what page.
Yeah. Pick your own ending.
Yeah. Funny that like those are the ones that come to mind, right?
Yeah,
So, a little
yeah.
bit of, because you feel a bit more in control of where's this book going to go. Okay, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it was like the Alchemist Tower as well, and there were like those wizard ones, and you'd scroll through and pick up different things, and it'd be like, go to page 17 if you picked up the wand and things. Yeah, it was pretty fun.
And I think as well, the nice thing about those sorts of things is you can, from a business point of view, it becomes very easy because you create demand from your users. So once people have solved, might have 4 or 5 books come out in your first release. Once they've sold them, they want the next. Especially if you can build. I think for that, I was thinking, you could have pages, to Henry's point before, where you'd design that some pages you might have to pick up a magnifying glass to find a key. On the next page, you might have to, use a translucent piece of plastic to see a certain color to see your code, but basically what I'm trying to work out is what's the code that gets me the next page. So I don't think it'd be too hard, and if someone does it, I'll buy it.
Yeah, nice. There you go. You get your first customer.
Yeah.
Before I forget, lads, I did a podcast recently. I think you guys will really like this. And the bloke's name's Luke Snedden, and he's built this business with his wife and then their business partner. And it's called Little Ones, and it basically started as a PDF of instructions on how to get your baby to sleep. And they've now sold sleep support to over 500,000 people internationally. Wow. And it's turned into an app and 24/7 support from sleep consultants and all those things. But the first part of that business was literally pay for a 15-page PDF.
Love it.
And that was nearly 10 years ago, I think. So
Incredible.
yeah, cool, eh?
Yeah, that's really, really sick.
Lean.
Yeah, solving a problem, lean and simple, right? There's demand there.
Yeah.
And literally the demand first was people saying to them in their baby and coffee groups and stuff like, hey, yeah, we'd love that PDF. Can we get it? And then like, oh, hey, that really worked. And now he was talking about fucking algorithms and apps. And But also as well, what they did like halfway through, I don't want to ruin the podcast for those who haven't listened to it yet, but it was basically, okay, we need a way to support them. Facebook group.
Yeah, great.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so tying a lot of these things
using
together.
infrastructure that's already there.
Yeah. That's
You'll
amazing.
love that one.
Yeah, focus on the value first. That's great.
Yeah. Okay, number 8.
This one is like a silent alarm on the wrist. Just connects to the phone. Basically, sleep wrist alarm just vibrates instead of calls out. There's actually multiple use cases for this one. Like it could be work for night shifters. You basically could have a, quick little app, basically download, just like ports right to your phone. It just comes off your normal sleep alarm that's on your iPhone. Shift workers, parents when they've got to wake up, but don't want to wake up the other parent, like on baby duty and things like that.
Yeah, and there's nothing that like drives, it'd be so hard for Kay. Sometimes she might do a 3 a.m. shift, and she's on maternity leave, but so she's just getting to sleep at 4 a.m. and then my alarm goes off at 5:30. And so thinking there, like, man, and again, Google it, guys. They're probably out there, but we were right in the target market and we didn't have one, so there's obviously a big hole. But yeah, just the ability to have a little alarm that just vibrates and goes off so that just you wake up, doesn't wake up the whole house. So easy.
Even in hostels and things like shared rooms, when you're in an eight bed dorm or something like that, somebody's like getting up, you're getting up for like a early morning hike, or, when you're traveling, or you've got to fly out somewhere. Like even hostels could just have like rings of them, like super cheap commodified ones. You just basically like turn the timer on the thing. Phone. Hey, we use sleep wrists here, whatever you call it. Whatever the idea is. Don't wake up the whole place.
Sure, gets the brain going. There are so many, because you think about, you go into a restaurant, for instance, and often they'll have timers in the background for how long something's been cooked for and whatnot. And it's like, get rid of all that ringing and literally
exactly.
like, their hands vibrating. Oh shit, that's right, I need to turn this now, or need to do whatever. Yeah.
Spot on.
Gee, there's something there, boys. There's something there.
There's something there.
Right, there's $1 million ideas. There's $10 million worth of ideas here. Someone just needs to execute on them. Number 9.
Number 9 is a huge. So we do. For both of us, we do a fair bit of flying for work, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but whenever you do a long haul, you kind of feel slightly fluey for 24 hours afterwards. It always sort of knocks you around.
Yeah.
And we got tiny bit of desktop research to look into that. It comes up pretty clear that it's the humidity in the planes. So it's really low humidity, so that kind of throws your body out. So I think for people that care and want to be there fresh, just some kind of simple mask that, and people are used to wearing masks now anyway, but something that just releases a small amount of water vapor throughout the whole flight. So you'd have to have a reservoir of 500 mils, but throughout the flight, it would just release it. Keep your, at least in your own little environment, fully humidified, keep your sinuses and everything clear. And again, for that one, to your point earlier, it's just marketing.
Yeah.
If people are sick of feeling shit when they get on holiday for the first day, it's a bit like that water you used to buy, you still can at airports around the world.
It's bad to ask.
Yeah.
I always look at that and be like,
does it work? Probably not, but they've done all right.
What's that water?
Oh, you buy this water that helps with jet lag.
It's almost it was like the first one to be like a big sort of twist top, and it's almost like 2 liters or something, and there's dispensers for it and stuff. And I always think, man, like I'm a sucker for buying something fatty like that, but I've been too scared to go to that. $15, let's go. It tastes like water out of the tap.
It's very familiar. They probably rinse it.
Yeah.
Well, that's their marketing, anti-jet lag water. You know?
That's right.
Yeah.
So something easy there. And do you want to do the last?
Good.
Do you want to do the last one?
So like a brain dump Kindle style pad that basically just allows you to write something, in a handwritten kind of almost like a, same kind of screen as like a Kindle or like a Remarkable or something, but basically it's super simple, just a small little tablet with a stylus. You just note down on it and it just sends it straight to your email.
Because Henry and I were talking, the reason when we're brainstorming these, like the thing we're talking about is for busy minds, and you'll be the same. I often wake up at 2 a.m.
Have an idea.
And you got an idea and you're a bit hamstrung because you can't just turn on the light to write because, often you got your partner there or whatnot, and what do you turn on the light at afternoon? Equally, you don't want to grab your phone.
Yeah.
You don't grab your phone and get blue light and see that it's 3 a.m. and then,
there's 6 notifications.
Six notifications.
Your notifications,
so
exactly.
So we're thinking if you could grab something that just was backlit, so you have to turn on a light, that didn't have any blue light, but just allowed you to scribble whatever was on your mind, hit a single button, so it's already pre-configured and it just shows in your email the next morning. So that then it's done, and okay, I'm going to be at work tomorrow. It's going to be there. I don't know. I can take it off my mind now and get back to rest. So So we thought there could be something there, and potentially, I'm sure those sort of devices aren't expensive.
Wouldn't be too bad. A little transmitting function you put in your email.
Simple.
Just a little email transmitting function.
I just think like this here, you can basically export it as an email.
Yes,
but like this is big and bulky. But maybe we could call that one like Ideas Ease, like IDEAZE. So it's like
IDs.
Get it off your brain.
And then push straight to the inbox, and you've built yourself 26 tasks. I think what I would like to see, and I feel like this is the way the world's going, this will scare the shit out of people. But what will happen is we'll end up being chipped up in some way. And then in the morning you'll wake up and AI will have basically gotten all your thoughts from that night and gone,
to-do list.
That was dreams, that was stuff you couldn't stop thinking about. That's some to-dos.
You'd want to make sure that you had some confidentiality on that.
Because even shorter term, you could use like some basic AI of just voice to text and have like a little recorder and just be like, send an email, blah, 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 instead of like writing
that's another option.
I was talking about this on a pod recently. I think it just went out today actually, where sometimes I'm driving and I will say like, hey Siri, email me and say this so that I know that I'm not going to lose that. Sometimes with money mails, look, it's turned on now. Siri here.
There you go. She's listening.
What I would do sometimes as well is I might have an idea for a money mail, and when I start writing it, like my brain starts going to all these different places, and then sometimes I'm like, oh fuck, what was the original thought? So often what I'll do is like just write down whatever I can and then like reshape it and move it back around and then flesh out other pieces. And so then what I did is basically same thing, but voice record.
Yes.
And then go righto, and just like talk to all the different things that I had, and then it would have sort of written it to okay-ish language and then reshape it.
Because I'm the same. I find it a lot easier to speak out rather than write. Sometimes there's just a little bit of that. The wires just get a little bit cross where you know what you want to say in your head. And so like voice to text really helps in that sense, just to like flush that out, get the notes, and then you edit afterwards. Yeah,
or even if you're on the fly, actually using the voice recorder on your phone and just recording it as an audio to yourself.
And sending that to yourself.
And then you've got it for later on. I like that one, lads. There's something there as well. The scribble pad,
so someone can run with that. And I think that's the last one.
Brilliant. Well, if we go back to some of the fundamentals with these, like you guys say, I think people overthink an idea. And I went and spoke at a university once, and I said, it was to the brightest people there. And I said, the challenge for you guys is that you are now in the room as the smartest people and you're being celebrated for that. It's either going to help you or it's going to hinder you. And what happens is you're going to sit there looking for the next best thing, the next best application, and probably the chances of one of you actually having one of those is very, very slim.
Yeah.
But we've all got ideas, and so we need to actually take action on them. So it doesn't need to be, and I used the example of, you don't need to invent, a coffee cup that bloody becomes invisible once you find or finish your coffee, and then you've got rid of disposable cups, and just like don't worry about that. Like get going on the journey first, and then innovate as you go, and you'll start to. Because I think when you try and solve a problem, you start attracting more people towards you that want to solve that same problem too. And those are the people that end up showing you, like, oh, did you know you could be doing this? And if you let your guard down and get rid of your ego, then you realize, like, a lot of people actually want to help you with your idea, and they know deep down inside themselves that they can't do the execution. So you're not actually competing with them.
Spot on. And it doesn't have to be, to your point earlier, it doesn't have to be world changing in the sense that you can learn a huge amount and create something really cool off just a basic idea, and create a huge amount of value for your customers, but also if you grow a team, and then by extension for New Zealand economy as a whole, it doesn't need to be large passion projects. Actually, small businesses are awesome. You're going to learn heaps and get stuck in.
And I was going to say further to that, like, it's not a bad thing just to nurture the habit of, like, trying to grow a small business around a smallish idea that might just be a bit of fun. Because a lot of people that are quite successful, it's never really their first or second idea. It's typically their 9th or their 10th, or that really kind of made them go pop. And more they were just kind of serial entrepreneurs that just quite like seeing if they could solve a couple of challenges. And I think it's like, if you can kind of take a long-term view, it doesn't really matter if, like, the business fails or not. The idea is that you gave it a go, you would have learned something, and it's just about nurturing the habit of, like, being somebody who's curious enough to give something a go.
Good call.
I do think a lot of people get trapped by the talk of billions, and we see American content around, I made 100 million in 1 year, and you're like, holy shit. But I just wanted to go back to some business fundamentals and some data, because I'm just pulling it together for a keynote. But back in 2020, New Zealand revenue, and it wouldn't have changed too much. There's probably some creep because of inflation, and now people turning over a bit more. But basically, 15% of businesses turn over more than $1 million. That's it in New Zealand.
Wow.
Yeah. So $0 to $1,000, 3% of businesses. $1,000 in turnover. So turnover sales for those people listening to 100,000 is 35.4%.
So so 1,000 to 100,000.
Yeah, it's 35. Wow. So basically, 35%. Like over a third of businesses are turning over less than $100,000,
which is awesome.
Then if we go over to 100 grand to $1 million, that's 47.8% of businesses. So nearly 1 in 2 are in that 100K of turnover to 1 million.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But if you think about this too, these numbers will be skewed a little bit by construction. So construction, we turn over $10 million. Yeah, but you buy in $9 million worth of materials.
That's right.
So your gross margin there is $1 million. Then you've got your operating expenses, etc. So really they're only
operating on over single points margin.
So, but anyway, this is the data. And so then if you go, like 10 million plus, for instance, 1.5% of businesses.
Yeah, wow.
So 5 million to 10 million, 1.4. 1 million to 5 million, 10.9. So I think there needs to be, but the problem is, like, a lot of traditional media and storytelling about business is NZX listed companies. It's the business
seed round, all that.
They sold to America for 50 million. Oh my God. And you're like, what do they even do? I never heard of them. And like, I'm a big fan of Rocket Lab and stuff like that, but we tell all of those stories. And I think people that don't live in the business space just then assume, like, oh shit, you have to have a $50 million idea. And
gotcha. So they never start.
The barrier feels really high.
And then they're on TikTok and social media filling themselves with, this guy made $1 million in 1 week, and you're thinking, like, shit, man, I'm on the median income of 70K here. What the fuck am I doing? That's impossible. But realistically, 15% of businesses in New Zealand don't hit the mark of turning over $1 million, and that's why turning over $1 million is a big thing in New Zealand.
It's
because
huge. It's amazing.
But like, it's possible, and we've got the data to say that it is, and so that's what you can do too. Like, you might have aspirations of turning over a lot of money, and you go, okay, well, let's try and figure out, of those 1.5% of businesses that turn over 10 million plus, like, what industry are they in? Who are they? and you go on LinkedIn, does anybody know someone who turns over $10 million in turnover? I'd love to learn about their challenges.
Yeah.
People will be blown away that people in business actually really want to help other people to have a crack.
Totally.
That's right. Yeah. And even like, even those $10 million businesses all started their first invoice. They still started with an invoice, still started with $100. You know, I think my first one was for an old friend, you know, from the boarding hostel, you know, and it was, you know, a $200 job, you know, and so, you know, there's no shame in just starting small and just if you can get someone to give you $1 for something, that's awesome. You've got a business.
Yeah.
I heard a cool story this morning when I was driving in, and it was a guy who's worth quite a lot of money, and he often does lessons around what he does with his children.
Yeah.
And trying to teach them how to make money because he doesn't want them to just grow up and think like, oh, well, we're minted, we've got heaps of coin, I don't need to learn those skills. And so the lessons that he has and the ways that he does are fascinating. But like one of them, for instance, was basically he would take them just walk the golf course and then get them to clean the balls and then go to the people in the neighborhood because it was a golfing neighborhood and then sell them the balls back.
Smart.
And like they would be stoked, and then they would learn, oh, well, that house yesterday, they liked the Bridgestone ones, and so let's take the Bridgestone ones to them and say, you've got first dibs, we've got 5 of them. The development of their knowledge through that process, and then learning like, okay, it's taking ages to clean these, what if we go to the driving range and ask if we can use their ball cleaner?
Ball cleaner,
And then they learned
scale.
and then they learned, okay, if we go to the club rooms after 5 or 6, I can't remember what time it was, but basically there's people who have had a few drinks.
And they get a lot more.
They pay more than $1 for the balls. But what he did is he would say to them like, okay, over this time period, you can that money's yours, but you can have half and split that between your siblings, but then the other half has to be invested into your next business venture. And so then he left it to them to figure out, okay, what are they going to do? So it's a bit like what you were saying in that first podcast where, you know, you were saying take $3,000, for instance, okay, and can you afford to lose that? But they had built up that fund as well from something which it just took their sweat and their time and their smarts, but they were learning business skills then, stat the cash, and then they went online and okay, here's our next idea, we're going to have a crack at that. And Dad was like, okay, cool, that's all good, we can help you and point you in the right direction, but that's on you.
Go Dad.
And then then he educated them on basically, okay, now here's how many, with the cost you've got, how many you're going to need to sell to get that money back. But same rules apply, then you need to put 50% aside and that's got to go to the next thing. And so basically by the time they got to school, they were already at the stage of like, oh, you've got a cracked phone, Henry. You know, do you want me to fix that for you? I can do that. And so they knew
$30.
And then and you see that got to the point where they would be out for dinner with their friends, and they would be the kids would be hustling their mates, being like, you've got a cracked screen. You're too professional to have a cracked screen. Why don't I fix that for you? Pass it here. I can do that in 2 hours and stuff. And they're like, oh, okay, mate, here you go.
Good on them.
But it was really cool to see. And this guy, I'm pretty sure, is a billionaire. So you know, he's
so he's really teaching the worth of money and basically just business lessons. It's so smart.
And I think like sometimes what we need to do to ourselves is go back to like that person going, okay, he doesn't necessarily have to do that because he's probably done enough work to look after those kids forever and just go, you guys can just coast on the yacht and do whatever until you know, do your brains and bloody drugs or whatever happens to you because you're on the wrong path. But we need to go, okay, I don't have these lessons, but who does? Okay, who can I go and speak to? But equally, what advice would I give to myself to get myself to the start line so that I can have a crack at it?
Yeah, spot on. It's sometimes as well, like even one of the things that I think was really useful is like, you know, and then again, it's a whole mosey thing, but part of it's getting the information. So part of the biggest skill you can get is, I don't know anything about this. If you can just get good at finding who can help you, you know, and even through ours, Hen, like there's been times we've gone, hey, we don't know anything about that. Well, let's see if we can find someone pulling a consultant. They might charge you $400 an hour, whatever. But if you only need it for a couple of hours and then you're away, great.
But that works really well, and like to actually give like that sort of tangible example, I think we had a meeting with like quite a lot of info security guys at a pretty large customer were interested, and it was like there was so much information online, you know, and it was just going to take us days to screed through it. So we're like, let's just find an info security expert on Upwork and let's just get a call for an hour and a half with them and just ask all of our dumb questions and let them answer and record the call. And then it was just like an hour and a half later, it was like, okay, sweet. we feel pretty prepared, and we're able to put together a slide deck and make it happen. It was like,
Wicked.
if you can kind of pull in the right information at the right time, you kind of have to know what the questions are. I think that's an important piece, but broadly speaking, it's a smart idea.
Well, it goes back a little bit to that Kiwi thing, right? Where I think we go, no, you got to know everything.
And, strong generalist, jack of all trades.
Yeah. Instead of going, but you realise that to be more successful, you pay for the information from someone who's done it and does have it, and you go, okay, well, I can swap the cash for your knowledge. Great, now I'm more prepared. Or you have to let your ego go and go, I don't know this, but I'll find somebody who can.
Yeah,
and then
spot on.
Yeah, you actually win more in life by doing that anyway.
Spot on.
I agree.
So maybe our upbringings have got something to do with it here, but I think it's unwinding.
Do you reckon it's a New Zealand thing because of like population size? Because it's just like, we're pretty scattered, pretty, I don't know, low density, and maybe that has something to do with the fact that there's just more that you got to kind of do yourself?
Yeah, I've been thinking quite a bit about this, and while I've been trying to find people like Luke to come on the podcast to say, hey mate, like how did you think to go Australia, the UK, USA, and whatnot? And he had some thoughts about it too. But what I've noticed with some of our clients is that they might get their first Australian sale, and it might be a digital marketing say, and then it just unlocks a chapter for them, and they realise like, shit, why did I not think to do business in Australia?
Yeah.
And next thing, they need advice around GST thresholds in Australia and stuff. But I think like a lot of, we travel a lot, but I think we travel for entertainment and leisure.
Yeah.
And we don't, but everyone says, go traveling because it'll open your worldview and stuff like that. But there's not heaps of chat of like, hey, go traveling to get some business lessons and look at scale and have a look at, I went to, but when you like business, your brain sees it, right? So you start to attract it and whatnot. But, I went to Vegas, for instance, and I'm Googling like how many people can go in the MGM, and it's like 72,000 people walk through there a day. I'm like, that's bigger than Palmerston North where I grew up, And I'm like walking around looking at all these people, and like, they're just going about their life, and you just think, holy shit, look how big this place is, and no wonder you can make so much money. No wonder the guy on TikTok is saying, I made $100 million, man, 1 month, 1 year. Like, okay, because they're just doing all the same principles, but the scale's there. But I don't know. I think we don't educate people well on that. So part of what I'm trying to get louder, and I'm almost like, okay, I probably need to go and do some of it myself as well, is basically what you guys are talking about before as well. How can we take people's ideas in clever Kiwi and then sell that education as a service to the world so that we can turn people into exporters so they can still work here? And once you think about it, in your guys' space, it's what India have done with tech stuff. It's what the Philippines do with resource. And so we can call it like idea shipping or skill or experience shipping. So we're basically giving, imagine if Steve Hansen, for instance, had a course that coaches around the world could log into, and they got a monthly call with Steve Hansen, and then here's all the educational material and whatnot, and showing them that they could be exporters. And I've got Aaron Walsh, who you might have heard of from the Chiefs, like mental skills coach, for instance. I'd be going for walks with him, for instance. I'm like, fuck, mate, like your knowledge would be so in demand in the world. Like you're perfect for something like this. And part of what got me thinking about it is that I went to one of his workshops, and basically it was around mental skills, and it was maybe first year of COVID. And so I'm thinking, much like we were talking about earlier, mindset, I need to get better at this stuff. I'm on this call, and I'm assuming it's going to be all Kiwi people there. And people are introducing themselves like, oh, hey, I'm from this Premier League team. I'm like, oh, shit, man, I'm in big trouble here. Like, some guys from the NFL and shit. And I'm like, oh, well, she said I could come to this. Like, I got to introduce myself last. Oh, hi, I'm Luke from Auckland. I'm an accountant. And everyone's like, fucking what? Like, but people were paying $100 or I think it might have even been free, that one. But people were, they're logging in for his knowledge, and he's delivering that from New Zealand. And that's where I think we've got, like, we haven't taught people enough that that's actually possible, that we could be shipping our knowledge and expertise to the rest of the world. And we've got far down the path of clean, green, New Zealand proud and all that stuff. Okay, now it's time to flip it back over into how do we actually monetize that for the everyday person?
Yeah, good call. It was a really interesting guy I was watching on YouTube. He's kind of like a sort of geopolitics guy from the US, and basically he was like in Canterbury, and he's just like eating like a South Canterbury cheese. And he's like, this like this is like everything that the French do and better. Like they're like, it's so amazing. He's like, we don't have real cheese back home in the United States, and he's like, we need to know more about how to make this, you know. And it's like there's a lot of hidden treasures I think locked away in New Zealand that we probably just consider to be like standard stuff, but actually is like pretty unique to us.
It's like the real fruit ice creams. Like you go travel around the world, and it's mind-boggling they don't have, you know. I mean, there probably are some places, but I'm always like, they're standard next to the strawberry farms out in anywhere semi-rural in New Zealand. Yeah. And it's just the most amazing product. But you travel around Europe and stuff and you don't really see it. I mean, it's definitely not in India.
It's not like India, no.
An easy product like that, you know, I think there's things that we have that we just take for granted, but actually the world would love.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we don't realise that there's so many people out there that the demand's there. And I think we then go and validate our demand to a smaller market, and then if we don't get a lot of it, then we think, oh, okay, maybe it won't work. But, you know, take Luke, for instance, from Little Ones, where you couldn't sell to 500,000 Kiwis, you know, how to get your child to sleep because there's just not enough babies. But, like, if he just stuck to the start where they thought, oh, well, there's a bit of demand for this, but it's not that much, and they just stayed in New Zealand, that business and that solution wouldn't be what it was and what it is today. So
I think it's a key point in there as well. Is like, you know, when you think about your business, is think about that total addressable market, because you do want it. But often we'll think about our like, TAM is what we call it, but often we'll just put a border around New Zealand. Yeah. But you know, if you actually just start from the start, and when you're doing your total addressable markets, just straight away think global. Yeah. You know, because there's a huge global demand. We're only a corner of the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heaps of fun, boys. Yeah. Brilliant. 10 ideas there for the people. 2 outstanding episodes. Good to have you boys in the studio. And I'm sure we'll stay tuned to the next part of the journey for you guys. Congrats again on the successful exit or sale recently. Yeah. If people want to keep an eye on you guys, where can they do that?
LinkedIn, I think.
LinkedIn, search Henry Wallace or Jack Coleman or Double Yolk, an outsourced company, and find us there.
There's a bit of background reading people can do as well. A few articles, MBR, and different some Australian publications as well. I think with some of you guys.
A couple.
Yeah, a few people picked it up.
Australia or something.
It's been a lot of fun. But thanks for having us on, mate. And we're stoked to spend some time with you.
100%.
No worries. Cheers, boys. All right. Well, cheers for coming in, and we'll see you again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.